All right, everybody, it's time to talk about Dennis Prager, or, you know, more accurately, Penis Dragger. Either way. So you didn't miss the Dennis pregnant. No, you didn't miss Dennis getting pregnant. You didn't. But let's look at the fan art section first, and then we'll get into if death is scarier for atheists than other people. This from Gideon Wells, said, had a stupid intrusive thought. Scrolled up and used Riddle of Lightning Suris at the capital for the flesh version. So there's two of these, and it's just Vice Rhino, Suris of the Pool, what is your wisdom? I don't have any wisdom to give you. This is a brainless face. I have nothing for you. Though, as always, thank you for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and get into... I really need to find a better way to segue into segments than saying, let's get into Dennis Prager. I don't think anybody wants to be into Dennis Prager.
Nate, 26 years old, Minnesota.
Okay.
Hello, Dennis. I'm one of what may be very few atheist listeners because you defend your ideas well in
No, he doesn't.
spite of our disagreements. Let me just say this, Nate. It's to your credit. Whenever people who differ with me write to me or call my show, I always note it is to your credit. Many people do not want to hear anything with which they differ.
So, I also don't like hearing things to which I differ, but unfortunately, my job, quite literally, is to listen to things that I differ on constantly and figure out what is or is not wrong with them.
So I give you a lot of credit. I'm wondering what advice you would give to someone who is scared of dying and cannot bring himself to believe in heaven. I expect death to be an endless sleep, a return to wherever I was before I was born. It is a remarkably scary prospect.
So, here's the thing about death. It's terrifying because it has changed. That is my thought. I'm an atheist, and I'm of the opinion that death is a scary thing, only because it is change. Change is scary for all of us. Moving from one state of being to another state of being, often without our consent, is terrifying. I'm not really worried about what is at the other side. I am hopeful about what's at the other side. I would like there to be an afterlife, and I would even like there to be a version of life where you die and come back as yourself when you were a child and you relive your life, but with better perspective from the first time around. That would be my ideal. My ideal is basically a form of time travel when you die. Now, I know that's not happening. That's never going to be the case. We have nothing in physics to even suggest that that's the case. But humans in general, like you, me, everybody, we kind of fear shit we don't know. That's very, very typical for us. Also, Snep Blep VR, thank you very much for the resubscription. We are always very, very terrified of things we don't know. We don't know what's on the other side of death, so it's natural to be terrified of that unknown. It's a safety mechanism for us. Always. So, am I personally scared? I'm not scared of what's on the other side. I'm excited about what might be on the other side. I am scared of change. I am scared of deterioration without my consent. I am scared of illness without my consent. I am scared of this life that I have disappearing without my consent. That is the terrifying thing to me, because I don't consent to dying. But somebody, somewhere, may one day decide that it is their duty to end me. And if and when that time comes, or, you know, a disease takes me, or old age takes me, or whatever, I'll figure out what's on the other side. But the change is scary. Not necessarily what's going to happen afterwards. That part's kind of exciting. But let's go ahead and see.
Well, first of all, it's interesting that at 26, you're thinking of death. That's to you.
I think that everybody thinks of death in some way, shape, or form. We've all experienced somebody dying at once. And also, it's not interesting that somebody's thinking about dying at 26, because we live in a culture that is heavily Christian and talks about death all the goddamn time.
Your credit too. You're obviously a thinker, because built into youth is not intellectually, but psychologically, one doesn't think they'll die when they're very young.
That one is true. I can at least say that Dennis is right about that. When I was a kid, I thought that I was going to be invincible. I never thought that something may threaten my life. I knew instinctually I was going to die. I'd seen family members die, but I also considered that that was a thing that was so far ahead of me in my life, I really didn't need to consider it too much.
And by the way, it's a gift. It's not, you should know it. It's very important to know because it can help shape a meaningful life if you know you're not here forever. But let me deal specifically with what you raised. So first of all, to be precise, you're not...
I love how his editors didn't get rid of his ums and ahs. Not even his filler words, just like the time that he sat there not saying anything. I think it speaks wonders to the efficacy of his editing team that none of them decided to get rid of any of that dead air.
Not returning to what you were prior to being born. You are on an unconscious level. You'll be as unconscious about anything after you die, if indeed there is nothing afterwards.
Yeah, if we die and there's nothing, there's no afterlife or anything, then there's absolutely zero to be scared of because we've lost the capacity to be scared. Like, you shouldn't be scared of not having the ability to be scared anymore.
You were before you were born, but the difference is you were eventually born, so it wasn't endless. Whereas if there is no God, which is what you believe as an atheist, it is endless, which is hard to believe that it's oblivion forever.
How is it hard to believe that it's oblivion forever? Like, so let's put it this way. It was oblivion for you individually as a person. It was oblivion for, at the very least, 13.5 billion years. Right? It's been oblivion to you for a very long time. It is only in this tiny pocket of time, this small moment right now, where you have been granted the ability to consciously understand that there is a world around you. But for 13.5 billion years, the world around the idea of you had been moving, churning, producing various kinds of life, and various kinds of life going extinct, irrespective of your input, irrespective of your time. The idea that this pocket of time here is so unique only because it contains you, and that the minute that you go into oblivion, the minute that you die, something fundamentally about the universe has changed in such a way that you should be worried about it is a strange concept to me. Like, the idea that oblivion is there forever is not in and of itself a weird concept. It's the fact that you care about the forever part. Oblivion was there for, in human terms, forever, until this exact moment where you happen to be in the world. You've already seen the world without you, and the world without you afterwards is not going to be uniquely different. Anyway.
The fate of all of us if there is no God. Where I do part ways emotionally, because it's an emotion you're talking about, scared is an emotion, I don't understand why that's scary. Were you unhappy before you were born, to use your...
Holy shit! I agree with Dennis Prager! Holy fucking shit, stop the presses! I agree with Dennis Prager! 110%! That's so weird!
Correct analogy? No. So you won't be unhappy after you die. If there's nothing, it's not something to be scared of. I can understand being scared of punishment, of there being a hell and that you think you deserve a hell.
Now here's the thing. Here's the area where me and Dennis part ways. So, If you are an atheist, but you have lived in a Christian society your entire life, or a Muslim society, it is very likely that everybody around you, to some degree or another, has told you over and over again that if you don't get right with God, you're going to burn in hell. You're going to go and just be toast. That's what's going to happen to you. Now, how hell is conceptualized for each individual person seems to differ a little bit. Sometimes it's a lake of fire. Sometimes there's a bunch of different rings to it. It just entirely depends on who's at the helm with a particular bit of propaganda. So, if you've grown up in a world where all you've known is people telling you that hell awaits you if you don't get right with God, it makes sense that you would have some kind of subconscious fear of death because of that. Now, do I, as an atheist, personally have that fear? As of right now, no. But I can be honest with you and say that sometimes it creeps up. Every now and again, that bit of religious trauma comes back and is there to remind me that, yes, you did have this upbringing where people told you were going to burn in hell if you didn't believe in God in the exact right way, without being able to really give you a good mechanical breakdown of how to believe in God, because as humans, we don't have a way to mechanically break down how to believe. That's not how the brain works, right? So, when I conceptualize a person who is afraid of dying, they are either afraid of the abrupt change without their consent, or they are afraid of what lies beyond. If they are afraid of what lies beyond, it is because they are taking the fact that they do not know what lies beyond, an honest feeling, and recognizing that other people have filled in the blanks on what lies beyond for them quite often. And that version of beyond that they've been filled in may be an abusive one. It may be one where they just die over and over again. It may be one where they get isekai'd into another world. Who knows? But the version of afterlife that you have been taught is likely the one that sits in the forefront of your mind. If this is an atheist in the United States, it's very likely that someone somewhere has tried to Christianize the idea of death to them. I agree that in a perfect world where somebody is a perfectly logical agent, that an atheist should not be afraid of death. They can be afraid of the sudden change, but what lies beyond, there's no real reason to be worried about that because the capacity to worry is gone. But we are not perfect logical agents in any way, shape, or form. We find all kinds of reasons to be upset about things that either do or do not matter. And in this case, yeah, it makes sense. Somebody who's lived in a Christian world, one that people like Dennis Prager want to put up or push up and keep going forward as long as possible, yeah, those people are going to find that death can be a little scary. Makes sense.
That's one thing, but oblivion is not scary, it's depressing. There's a big difference. When I think about dying, and I'm much closer, presumably, than you are, I'm not scared in the least, because either there's a heaven and hell, and I don't think I have merited hell. Maybe. I
think you probably have, honestly. I think perpetuating the kinds of hatred and evil that PragerU manages to perpetuate is probably a good enough reason to deserve a hell. Not the Christian hell that is forever, but certainly a form of a hell.
I'll be wrong, but I've tried to lead a pretty good life, and I think I've done a lot of good, and I've tried to from a very early age. So either there's something good following my death, or there's nothing. Nothing is not scary, because I'm unaware of what is happening. It's like if you ever went under with an anesthetic for surgery, were you unhappy during the surgery? No. Well, you won't be unhappy after death. It's the equivalent in effect. So but I am sad. The prospect of dying makes me sad because I love life and I love people in my life.
Again, that we actually agree on this one. Like, I don't like having to agree with Dennis Prager on something, but in this we actually do agree.
I love what I do. I love every day, and it's the thought of not having it does sadden me.
Cladam says no, but I was scared of the shit I might say while going under anesthesia. I don't get that. Like, I thought when I got high that I might say something that would be somewhat embarrassing, and then I realized that, like, according to Saki, the only thing I say is, like, oh my god, you're so pretty. Like, I don't think I have a reason to be too worried about that anymore. I'm not sure what things lurk in the bowels of your subconscious, Cladams.
It doesn't depress me, but it is sad. Leaving all these loved ones and leaving just such an enjoyable life. Even putting all my loved ones aside, I just enjoy life immensely. I always have. I'm very blessed in that.
Oh, die, not say. Okay. You were scared about scared of shit you might die, not scared of the shit you might say. There we go. Okay, that makes sense.
That way. So yes, it's sad, but it's not scary. So it's something for you to think about, since you're obviously a thinker. You might also want to rethink your atheism. See, if you said you're agnostic, I get that. But an atheist seems to be more or less certain that there is no God. And I think
I really don't need Dennis Prager to sit here and LARP Steve McRae. So when people say they are atheist, oftentimes they are one of millions of flavors of atheist. And what you would consider in philosophy to be agnostic is something that many atheists would consider themselves. We just call it political atheism if you want. Technically, I am agnostic, but I am also a local atheist to various forms of God, if I want to use the technical philosophical terms.
A purely rational level, the idea that everything came about on its own is way more irrational than the idea that there is a creator.
So the fact that we see Dennis, the fact that we see oftentimes, in fact, all the time, natural births, just existence as we know it, things happening naturally all the time. That's something we can observe. That's something we can see. That's perfectly rational. A god, I can't see a god. So to me, a god is not a rational belief on its surface. There are ways to, increase that rationality. There are ways to raise that bar. There's certain types of gnosis that, say, pagans can use that I think are far more, plausible than what Dennis Prager is talking about, than what most Christians are talking about. But in general, yes, this is the watchmaker fallacy. You saw all this stuff around you, you said this had to be designed. It makes more sense for it to be designed. When no, this is the puddle argument. You didn't wake up today and notice that this hole was made for you. You woke up today as a puddle. You've been shaped for the hole. The hole just happened to be there by circumstance. You are the thing that is shaped into that mold. But I said this hole was made for me. Yeah, if we want to go full Junji Ito, that's a way to go about it as well. But anyway, that's Dennis Prager on death. Now, again, I agree with him on some parts of this, right? To a degree, for me, I feel entirely okay accepting that, yeah, it's kind of irrational to be scared of the void. If we, in fact, knew the void existed, but we don't know that the void is what is there after death. We have no evidence of anything being after death, whether it is a lack of something or something in the positive. We just don't know. That's not a thing we have access to. But either way, that's Dennis and his, let me very quickly give you some religious propaganda at the end. Maybe rethink your atheism. Because the people who do that are the same people who say that agnosticism is one step closer to their God than atheism, when no. Atheism and agnosticism are steps laterally away from, the idea of a deity. They are not steps toward or away the idea of a deity. They are steps laterally, fully horizontally away, in any way, shape, or form. If somebody says, I don't know that God exists, they are equally as unconvinced as an atheist who is 100% certain that God doesn't exist, because belief in this sense is a binary. You either do have the belief or you don't have the belief. Both atheists and agnostics don't have the belief. Anyway, Alba says, it is possible to be revived moments after death if your body is intact. Fair, depending on the type of death. But that also completely depends on our idea of death and our definition of death. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. As always, everybody, if you enjoy my channel, please consider supporting what I do on Patreon and insert end of video tagline here. Hey, just wanted to give a quick thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who help keep me afloat and help keep this channel going. YouTube and Twitch are wonderful platforms, but at the end of the day, stability is not one of their strong suits. If you want to support my channel, then obviously Patreon is one of the best ways of doing that. Link is in the description. But I do want to personally thank everybody who has contributed to the channel. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Autumn and Angel, Nixie Chan, Mark Anthony, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. And everyone else who supports my channel and lets me do what I do full-time. This is a dream job of mine that I never believed that I would be able to take full-time, and with your help, I've been able to do it. So thank you so very much for that. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you all are having a wonderful time. I will see you all in the next one, hopefully.